So you are here today for Salesforce for Associations. I love this topic. I think it's going to be great for all of us that have any kind of interest in how Salesforce works. So today we are joined with Fíonta, and they're going to take us through some specific course objectives, such as what Salesforce offers to the association market, when your organization should consider evaluating Salesforce-based options and using a partner, and then key steps in your game plan from moving from your legacy system. All of those are pretty important topics. Again, if you're just entering the room, this is CAE or CPE and a CPE credit eligible. So let us know in the chat if you're going to need those credits. I will remind you that the way that we keep track of granting those credits is you do need to answer the questions as they come up throughout the webinar. You're going to answer those in the chat. They're not going to come up as poll questions. They will come up in the chat. Here's our format for today. We're going to briefly go through our format for Zoom protocols and then introducing our speakers. And then we have this slide called Ask the Audience, and I'll explain that a little more in a moment, but I do ask you to participate in that. And then we have 65 minutes, and I apologize, that is not the right title here. We do have 65 minutes for our Salesforce for Association webinar, and Q&A will be built into that. If you've just joined us in the room, you are in the right place. It's Salesforce for Associations, not the title you see on the screen. My apologies. Do let us know in the Zoom, in your Zoom ID tag, if your first and last name, please, if you need that CAE or CPE credit. Please do. We're going to be a larger group today. Please do remain on mute, but do feel free to put your question into the chat or to raise your hand using the raised hand function under the participant icon. We will call on you. Or if you put your question in the chat and your instructors need more context, they will ask you to unmute and just kind of share with us what you're thinking or the context of your comment. Okay, so you are today here with Fíonta, who is our sponsor for this webinar, and they are known as Technology as a Force for Change. And so I put a little bit about Fíonta here that you can read. I'm sure they're going to tell you a little bit more about themselves as we go on, as well as the fact that our webinar for UST Education is powered by US Transaction Corporation. And we are a credit card processing organization for associations and B2B organizations. We specialize in who you are. We know your market, and if those are needs that you have, please reach out to either of us. So with you today as an instructor is Jennifer Alonso. She is the association practice lead with Fíonta. Arj Devadas is the director of Biz Dev for associations with Fíonta. And I am Julie Duncan. I am your host, and I am the association practice leader for US Transactions. All right, so we are to our Ask the Audience slide. Let us know in the chat. This will be your first question for CAE and CPE credit. But beyond that, let us know in the chat what you want to get out of today's webinar or what's top of mind for you. And the value of this question is that you get to kind of inform your instructors what really matters to you. You know, it's your webinar, and we want to make sure that the things that you're getting from it are what you need. So it helps to inform us, inform your instructors what it is that matters. So go ahead and do that now. That's question one for your CAE CPE credit. And while you're answering those, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Arj the screen, and I will read a couple of the comments out loud. So Arj, while you're doing that, okay, we have some people telling us that they are researching possibilities for AMS and want to know what's available in the market space. Teresa wants to know how to interface with the accounting system. Tammy says we'd like to see if Salesforce can really be used for associations as a CMS. Mark says the difference between Salesforce and Fontiva. It's a great one. The functionality of Salesforce, gosh, they're just rolling in. So I'm not going to read all of these, but Jennifer and Arj, if you can take a look at those, I think you're going to find a lot of information to assist you.
Okay. Oh, Julie, thank you very much. And everyone, thank you for just jumping right in with these questions. I hope we're able to keep up with you today. But I will say, I want to give some credit before we introduce ourselves and the company to Lexi Milani, who actually did a lot of the background work. She's kind of the ground control today. and she is going to be really the subject matter expert to help us out with these questions. So if we don't get to everything, please forgive us. We will try to do what we can today. And I promise you, regardless of whether or not we answer your questions on this call, we'll certainly get back to you with that. And so if that sounds good, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself and then hand it over to Jennifer to introduce herself. But again, appreciate all your time today. Thank you for joining us from all the different time zones. I know that we have people from at least 3 or 4 different time zones. My name's Arj Devadas, and Julie already introduced me. I'm the Director of Business Development, but I would like to say that I've been working with associations for 18 years. Prior to coming to Fíonta, I actually worked a long stint for an enterprise association management software company. So it's music to my ears to actually hear people jumping right in about talking about their AMS and CRMs because it's near and dear to my heart. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer to just introduce herself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Arj. I am Jennifer Alonso. Prior to making a career change towards technology and eventually working my way up to practice lead at Fíonta, I've had over 25 years experience with higher education, nonprofits, and associations. My passion has been unsiloing highly siloed organizations and using technology to support that. So I too am very excited about the questions I see in the chat.
Great. Thank
Thanks,
you, Jennifer. So yeah, I would just like to keep reminding you, be as interactive as you can with us, and we'll try to keep up the best we can. So just to get started, for the benefit of those who are not familiar with Fíonta, yes, it is pronounced Fíonta, we'd like to take just a moment to let you know who we are and what we do. Fíonta was founded in 2001 as an IT consulting firm. As a matter of fact, this coming March, we'll be celebrating our 21st year anniversary in business. And we're headquartered in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm actually in Maryland, so not too far away from our physical office, which is on 18th Street Northwest in L, which if those of you are in the D.C., Virginia, Maryland area, we're right downtown. With just the rapid development of cloud-based technologies in the early 2000s, Fíonta jumped on this in 2006 to start working with Salesforce. Now, Salesforce was only about a 6 or 7-year-old company, but they were leaders already in cloud-based computing, where a lot of the other vendors and just technology companies were not even quite into using their internet-based applications yet. Today, we are both a Salesforce Premium partner and a Salesforce.com Crest partner. We're also a Fontiva implementation and services partner. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. And with just over 60 employees, about half are located in the Washington, D.C. area, while the rest work remotely, like Jennifer, throughout the United States. Unlike some IT consulting firms also, Fíonta does not offshore any of its services. We do not send any of our client work offshore out of the country. And as they say, happy employees can make happy customers. We really enjoy what we do at Fíonta. You won't have to look too far to understand why this is. Fíonta, first of all, is a diverse and inclusive, extremely supportive organization, especially in education and achievement. The company is also women-owned and majority women managed. So you'll see Fíonta also involved at a lot of the industry conferences. We just went to 3 of the past 2 months in the association industry, just supporting not only as a sponsor, but participating mostly as a thought leader and presenting on topics like data management, change management, best practices in technology and delivery. And while Fíonta has grown and evolved its business over time, its mission has always been clear, and that's to serve the technology needs of association and nonprofits with best-in-class strategies and solutions. Fíonta has served over 1,200 organizations. These are professional societies, trade associations, nonprofit organizations, and credentialing bodies. Many of all of those that are represented even on this phone call today. All great brands have become synonymous with advocacy, professional growth, trade leadership, and protecting the public as a whole. Through their members and their programs, our clients, much like your organizations, are literally driving innovation, collectively shaping the world we live in, and many are even saving lives. So we truly get behind their mission, feel very passionate about it, and we work and we feel very fortunate to just play a small part in helping these customers solve their problems, whatever they may be, but really to operate more efficiently and be highly relevant to their constituents through technology. So our goals and agenda for today are to first start by taking a look at the association, the trends in the associations, and the things that might be driving demand for Salesforce CRM. We're going to talk a lot about Salesforce, but there's certainly some things I'd like for all of us to get on the same page with, and also try to have some maybe input, and you can do this through the chat, of just letting us know what you think. So we might hit on a few questions today, and that's just trying to just get a pulse on who's doing what and maybe how we can steer our conversation today. But we'll also take a look at the current AMS and CRM landscape and why associations are considering alternatives to traditional, in place of a traditional association management systems. Now, don't think of Salesforce, I'll get to this, but don't think of Salesforce as only being a CRM. There's certainly that aspect of it in the main core competency which they have, but there's a much greater picture to be understood here. We'll then go on to explore Salesforce itself, what it is, and why Salesforce is a platform like no other. Jennifer will then give us a peek at how to actually get started with Salesforce and finding the right partner to implement it. We don't want to take up too much time, but this is probably going to be held off for another webinar that we'll do when we talk about the implementation in more depth. And then we'll conclude with how to prepare for Salesforce implementation and prepare for your migration and preparing your staff as well, which we find is very important as a consulting company. So let's get started with the lay of the land and what might be spurring the rapid growth of Salesforce and associations. This question might be best answered, though, by understanding the trends that are driving associations to evolve in business and technology. And as I mentioned, we'll also take a look at those association management systems. So some of you may be familiar with Marketing Journal Incorporated. Now, MGI has been around for years. I was able to find a report that was just recent of 2021. Just so you know, you can go to their website, you can register, and you can download their report for free. But I find it to be a very, very interesting publication, which we subscribe to every year and really get a lot out of it. But they surveyed 833 individuals across 747 unique associations for their 2021 membership marketing and benchmarking report. Sadly, but not unexpectedly, and I might be telling you things you already know, but again, I'm trying to get us on the same page. A key finding was that many associations have taken a significant hit to membership during the pandemic. New member acquisition and renewals were down by 47%. During the peak of the pandemic, nearly half of the associations reported declines in membership. We haven't seen this much of a downturn since 2010. And I remember what those days were like because I was living them in the AMS world. But drilling down even further, you can see that both individual membership organization and trade associations have had roughly the same experience, roughly 43 to 47%. To counter that downturn, associations are developing new non-dues related products and services that are adding value and attracting non-members to join. Now, these new programs are really nothing new. We were all doing these, or associations were doing them well before the pandemic, but it accelerated the movement to do it. It accelerated the need for technologies to do it. They're also growing their education and professional development programs and possibly credentialing. Again, a sticky program to engage and retain members through possible assessments and certifications. And many organizations say they are reevaluating and streamlining their internal processes by implementing automation technologies just to be more efficient, collaborative, and responsive to their constituents. As a communication means and just having that be a very great challenge at this time, associations have tried to up their game and have invested in better tools to be more effective. And this is just to help their sales and marketing efforts, which if there's ever a time I've seen had to be aggressive, it's now with associations especially. Overall, the MGAI report explains that there is a correlation between associations and innovative cultures and their membership growth. Again, I'll say that the report shows that there's a correlation between associations' innovative culture and their membership growth. Hence the need to explore more of modern technologies, which is Salesforce, and we're going to talk about that today. So another catalyst that probably impacts a lot of you for change has been the shortcomings in the association management system world. When we came out of the 90s, for those of you who've been around for a while, there were really only a handful of maybe less than a dozen association management systems in the marketplace. Some of them were more popular than others, brand names that you'll probably recognize here on the screen. These systems tended to be packed with functionality that provided all-in-one solution. And associations would go through their selection process looking for an AMS that could do a majority of what they needed. Membership, events, marketing, subscriptions, accounting, e-commerce, reporting. I remember sitting there for days, a day or two with selection consultants and an association and taking them through the entire system and trying to prove to them that they needed or they could use everything for what they needed. The truth is they couldn't, but they were looking for the best solution possible at the time to get the most for their investment and go with one partner. But let's fast forward to today. The landscape of vendors has really changed and has certainly grown from, again, about that dozen back in the early 2000s to well over 70 AMS products on the market today. Now, granted, most of them aren't enterprise tier products, but I do see some good out of this. One good out of it is that there are solutions designed for just about every size organization with different complexities and different budgets. And so what this has caused, though, is a lot of confusion in the marketplace. And what it's told me is that you have a lot more options available to you, not just the proprietary systems. So when I look at the AMS trends and just some of the concerns, the vendor landscape, it's changed over the years, but there's all these concerns that have been brewing. While AMS is usually compact with those built-in features that I spoke of, they're aging. They don't support digital needs very well with today's associations. Associations are abandoning these features and opting to take best-in-class approaches to find the right tools to do the job that they have. And I hope I'm getting a lot of head nods on that because that's what I'm seeing. More than ever before, though, there are excellent tools for learning management, content management, events, conferences, collaboration tools, communities, messaging, marketing, and sales automation systems, business intelligence and analytics. We're seeing all these types of great technologies. What organizations do want is to integrate these systems to their AMS. Now, I can tell you, I speak still with a lot of organizations using traditional AMSs, but one of the biggest frustrations they have is that they cannot integrate their legacy system easily and affordably with many of the traditional AMS systems. Many associations have also over-customized their AMS, taking themselves off their vendor's base product path. And this has led to high support fees, and probably the worst thing that you get the crisis call about is when something breaks and someone can't access your member portal or can't access an application or can't register for an event, or it's crunch time and you have to register or do a submission at this time and it's not working. That's the worst thing that can happen, the user experience. One other concern is that there is less support for AMS products that are aging, built on older technologies. Loss in popularity can sometimes lead to the customer having to figure things out themselves. Worse, go out and try to hire expensive resources to solve their problems. So one thing you've noticed Also, and I'll just mention this, I don't want to make it a big deal, but it's absolutely impacting our industry. One thing we've noticed is that there is more infusion of private equity and acquisitions of the AMS companies than ever before in the industries. Vendors might say that these moves are helping them to further their company's innovation and software development, but many clients might argue that changes have impacted the relationship that they've had with the vendor. And this is just another catalyst for change and exploring new systems. A big one though. So with the erosion in the value of traditional AMSs, which I've just kind of described, associations are taking greater interest in CRM platforms, not just Salesforce, but definitely there have to be better alternatives. All these pain points that I hit on. Again, I'd be interested if anyone would have any of these pain points to share with us, but we do have a question coming up here. What are some, if any, concerns with your AMS and or vendor? Okay, and I'll just read these off, but feel free to take a little bit of time to answer this or just put it into the channel, into the chat channel. Limited features or product innovation, can't support digital transformation needs, lack of integration to third-party systems, too many product defects, costly, expensive to maintain technologies, poor customer service, vendor acquisition pains, and then anything else that you can think of. Okay, and you can cheat if you want to, give us more than just one, that's fine. But I'll just give you a minute here. And I can't really see the chat window, so I'm going to rely on my friends here to help us out.
Lots of pain points. Lack of integrations, both expensive and not much functionality, harder and harder to maintain, limited features, limited product innovation, can't support transformation, lack of integration, limited features, time, integration, yet another new thing to learn, expensive to maintain, membership renewals requires to pay the vendor each year to get it functional, costly, too costly and few automations, maintenance issues, costs.
Wow, okay, so I think we're somewhat on the same page here, right? And you can see these stories that are told to us over and over again. Thank you for answering those questions. All right, so let's move on to a little bit something less gloomier, and that's really what is Salesforce and why is Salesforce made for associations, or let's just say how you can use Salesforce for associations, because that's what we're going to try to tackle, at least get started on this afternoon. Sounds good? Okay, so what is Salesforce? Salesforce is a cloud computing software as a service, a SaaS company that specializes in customer relationship management software, a CRM. Salesforce allows organizations to use cloud technology to better connect with customers, partners, potential customers. Salesforce is accessed entirely online because all of its data and information is stored in the cloud. So those of you who are veterans of cloud computing, this is easy stuff for you. But those of you, believe it or not, who are still using some systems that are partially not cloud-based, but client server-based or anything else, this is really one of the benefits and one thing that Salesforce became known for very early on. So Salesforce is accessible from any device at any time, and that doesn't extend just to the public-facing, the people who are accessing online. It could be members or non-members or just about anybody, but your staff as well. Working from home these days, we absolutely need it. If you don't have it, then you'd be in trouble. Salesforce offers multiple different cloud platforms that serve different specialized purposes as well, yet all share the same core CRM features. We can't possibly go in to every variation of Salesforce today, but some of the more popular platforms that you may have heard brand names for is Sales Cloud, which includes features for sales, marketing, customer support. It allows organizations to provide customers with personalized buying experiences. Okay, that's a very short definition of such a product that offers so much. Nonprofit Success Cloud, which we work with a lot of organizations that are nonprofits and foundations, and they primarily, of course, use it for fundraising and development. Marketing Cloud allows businesses to engage with customers through the right channels at the right times. It tailors unique content for each user based on their specific interests, online behaviors, and other details that they may provide. So registrations for events, purchasing of journals, participating in a presentation or submitting an abstract. All these interest areas, these demographics are so important to a system to be able to give your constituents that personalized view. The data may be collected again from all these web places, but also through social media interactions and purchasing behaviors and other things. And then Analytics Cloud also refers to as Einstein Sales Analytics, helps organizations to interact and gain insight into their data with a straightforward data visualization features. Organizations can really start to spot trends and look at team performances and just different, I guess, return on investment of the programs that they are putting out there. One thing to really mention here, so Salesforce has made a great amount of acquisitions. You don't always hear about them, but one thing that is very interesting about what they're doing is they're always complementary. They're not just doing it to add revenue to their bottom line. They really do have a vision on how it all should work together, and eventually it does work together. While there are other CRMs on the market, Salesforce has become an industry standard. It's offered a multitude of services that allow organizations to engage with their customers in ways that just go beyond the surface level. Salesforce has quite literally become the world's #1 CRM platform. Now, I don't like saying #1 a lot because it just sounds, I don't know, it just sounds like we have big heads, but it's so true. When you start to look at all the reports and the data, there's a clear reason why they've become a leader, and they continue to dominate and widen the margin with other well-known platforms like Oracle and Microsoft. I think personally, and just what I've read, is that one key reason for its success is that Salesforce has kept true to innovating its core competency of CRMs and making it things easily accessible to users, but also developers as they have to help design and configure the products, and interoperable so that, with other products like Microsoft Office productivity software, Slack, whatever you might be using in your office to be more efficient, but at the same time, keep a system of record and centralize your data. They continue to make investments in their platforms, and no one can argue with them. They invested last year $3.6 billion on research and development alone in 2021. Okay, so I'd urge you to just go out there and do your own research, but you will find the same data that I'm proudly presenting to you here. With the Salesforce ecosystem, one reason that Salesforce is so popular is that it's packed. It's very comprehensive with features like no other CRM software. Features for contact management, workflow creation, task management, opportunities, tracking and management, collaboration, customer engagement, analytics, and also just mobile-ready type of dashboards, which we all love. For associations, Salesforce allows associations to better connect with their members and the public and partners and their prospective members or sponsors or advertisers that they work with. Using the Salesforce CRM, associations can track customer activity, market to customers, and provide many more valuable services. A CRM platform helps you go deeper with all the metrics in general. You could also set up a dashboard that showcases data visually and for your staff and even for your chapters and committees. In addition to this, you can also personalize any type of outreach with automation, which gets wired into a number of other things like marketing automation. Another significant benefit is that the CRM platform also improves customer service and the ability to help members and help your organization's outreach efforts. You know, one thing I became accustomed to hearing when I was in the AMS world is that everyone wants a 360-degree view of their constituent, of their member, non-member, and anyone else that is inside the system or the database. Very hard thing to achieve for AMSs, but I see that's, you know, Salesforce CRM has made such great strides to do this, and it's through the integration. One of the frustrations that a lot of you brought up today. Let me just see if there's anything else. I'm going to probably fast forward because I know I'm running maybe a little bit behind here, but you know, one thing to say about Salesforce is that it's not only built this world-class CRM product that we talk a lot about. What really makes it so successful, and I hear this over and over again, is the ecosystems that they've built with their programs, their partners, their entire network of organizations to leverage and share knowledge. And so you have to dig a little bit deeper to find out what that ecosystem is made up of, but there's so much to talk about there. There are literally thousands of pre-built applications available in the Salesforce application app exchange, which I'm going to ask Jennifer. I know you're more familiar with this. Would you mind just saying a few words?
Absolutely. I'll talk about this in terms of my clients, who are the folks that I'm really looking at and taking care of. The reason I'm a Salesforce professional is because Salesforce really is a platform. And on top of that platform, there are options from the tiniest to the largest for you as organizations, right? So, and there is a thriving community of developers who are working to solve problems on the Salesforce platform. So in addition to all the Salesforce native products that Arj underlined for you, there's a whole community of developers who are adding things like ways to think about reports and dashboards, ways to visualize, adding e-commerce, adding a member portal, thinking about templates. So for me and my clients, the reason why Salesforce is often the best solution is that there are so many options that can sit on top of the platform. And I think someone asked a little earlier about Fíonta. So that's that in itself actually is something that, because Salesforce is a platform, allows us to put a really large, robust AMS on top of it. Okay.
Thanks, Jennifer. So, you know, some of you might be saying, okay, that's what I heard 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago with my brand new shiny .NET based AMS, that, you know, we've got all these things at our disposal, these great features, a great development. One thing that I've seen that's very different about Salesforce is that, and I'm kind of going on about the whole network and ecosystem, but so true to life that you can see it supported not only from a technical standpoint or a technology standpoint or a software developer standpoint, it's supported in a community of learning, knowledge, being able to really understand how to solve problems. And so this is why some of you might be familiar with the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. There's a Magic Quadrant for pretty much any variety of technology in any product sector you can think of, but it measures the ability for companies that have the strategy to be able to be a leader in their sector, in this case, CRM, and the ability not only just to, you know, anyone can come up with strategy and planning, but can they actually pull it off and move forward and get their whole team moving forward? And the execution is the most important part. Salesforce has constantly, for several years, been up at the top right of this curve here as a leader. You know, they share some company with the Microsofts of the world and Oracle, but the truth is they're so laser focused on their CRM core competency that they've stayed leaders for a long time. One other Magic Quadrant, which I thought would be worth looking at, is really the B2B marketing capabilities of the system. And so Salesforce, while they're not all the way at the tippy top right-hand corner, they are pretty far up there in offering capabilities that complement the CRM capabilities that their users, that our clients have. Okay, so I know there may have been some questions about Fíonta. I don't know if we're going to get to the specific ones, but we will try. And what I wanted to mention is that you have some options to actually use Salesforce. you have options. Natively, we've been talking about pretty much all the way up to this point, natively implementing a Salesforce CRM system, whether it's Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, or MPSP, or really any of the other CRM-based products. But what has happened, and also we want to mention this, we are Fíonta implementation and consulting services partners. So we also are capable of implementing the Fíonta system should you would want us to do it and not Fíonta, or you know, if there's any types of questions, even after the fact, we also offer managed services agreements to pick up the support, where we give you a nice, generous batch of service hours, and we can help you get through different types of problems you may have. That is kind of the right now just my little endorsement of just what we do for Fíonta. But platform-based systems for associations, what are the advantages of having them? Well, there's definitely some pros and cons, and I'll try to point them out here. When you're buying a product that is so-called off the shelf, you get some applications that are built. Some of the pros are that it's productized by a manufacturer of the product that is building on the Salesforce platform. So there's a lot of experience, domain experience that you get from the association world, because that's all they are doing. Another pro is ongoing support and development for AMS features, right? So typically AMS products or AMS manufacturers are always coming out with new features and trying to make the ones that they've had, their conference module or feature, better than it was in the last release. So you can look forward to those types of things with a system that you are buying, like a Fíonta or Nimble system. And then specific support and product management chains, because they are the developers of their product, they are going to support it, and they're also going to have a product management roadmap, which you can have visibility into. Some of the cons of buying a product off the shelf is that you're locked into a package's data model. Sometimes, and you know, you can have some specific features that you need, or just some business rules that have to be implemented, or some workflows that you need done, and you have to work within the confines of the products. And if it can't be configured, it'll usually be some sort of a customization. And then there's constraints on the ability to add other business uses outside of membership AMS. So we often are seeing associations these days doing a lot more than they just did as an association. Okay, so the Salesforce universe can open up some great things to you. When you might be in a off-the-shelf type system, you might not get that same ability to use things, you know, as you would a native system. Low compatibility with third-party applications as well. The integration sometimes be a little bit more difficult. Maybe Jennifer will talk about that in a while as well. But let's look on the other side, a build type of scenario. Now, what I've found is, again, going back to early 2000, you only had a dozen products. You would buy the best one you possibly could. Today, you have a lot more options, and the pendulum has swung back from being, let me just buy everything because I want this product, this one AMS is going to have everything that I need to solve all my problems. Well, as we know, that's not true. Usually you're looking for best in class. So the things that you can benefit from a native Salesforce environment is a tailored AMS experience, one that is designed for your workflows, for your processes. It's scalable to other non-member organization needs, as I mentioned. So we find that a lot of organizations, especially expanding into non-dues revenues, are going outside of just their revenue pool of members and sponsors and doing other things, some sort of alliances or sponsorships from a industry type of partners. And then it also becomes a central source of the truth. So some very large organizations we've worked with, they've had an AMS on top of a native Salesforce system, and they're also talking to fulfillment systems. They're dealing with a credentialing system. They're dealing with a journal system. So Salesforce natively really is best suited sometimes there to be the system of record. full capabilities with the App Exchange. Jennifer had talked a little bit about that, but it is pretty fascinating that you can go and look for software that was approved and blessed by Salesforce to be able to be integrated into the Salesforce system, just like the Apple Store or Google Play Store. It makes it so much easier, less expensive, and also that things have gone through some vetting. Some of the cons, however, of a native environment is significant upfront investment. And then it may require internal resources for ongoing support and maintenance, unless you were to contract with a Salesforce implementer like us, or there's other ones out there to be able to provide you the support you need. So I think you can see some pros and cons with either of these scenarios. Those are just some of our observations. And Jennifer, I'm going to have you jump in and get a little bit more specific into actually what we have done in some of our experience with Salesforce.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Arj. I had to look there and make sure I actually unmuted. So you know what, we soup to nuts, right? So looking at your needs as as organizations that are looking to change your AMS, and probably that includes a lot of other platforms as well, all the way from membership to the customer portal, self-service possibilities. So there is nothing that we have encountered as an organization that we can't build in Salesforce, or that we can't work with another partner or app to help you put together. So, and if you can move to the next slide, please, Arj. So that brings me really to decisions and requirements for you all. How do you get started? If you know that you need to make a change for your CRM/AMS and your systems, how do you begin, and how do you begin with the right Salesforce implementation partner? And so let me ask you first. So this is question number 2. Which element of the selection or procurement process is most critical for your organization? Is it the cost? Is it knowing the knowledge of technology? Is it partner options? Is it time to go live? What else are you concerned about as you're thinking forward? Okay, so we have, let's see, knowledge of technology. Oh, look at that, cost and knowledge of technology. Cost again, all the above, flexibility, migration assistance, cost, knowledge of technology, interacting with the existing AMS, initial and ongoing support combined so they can meet the business needs, livestock registry, cost and knowledge of technology. Anybody else? Let's see. I wonder, Robin, if I could call on you, if you could tell us, unmute and tell us a little bit about this livestock registry and customization that you're looking at. You don't have to, of course. No go. I wanted to solution for a livestock registry, like right here on live. Let me actually.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. This is Robin.
Yeah,
I'm kind of
okay. Tell me about
kind of put on the spot there, but I think that is what is unique to our organization beyond most, is that everything you're talking about are elements that we currently have built for us, but we need something more, not more robust, something that's less costly, and where we can put in a lot more automations that we don't have now. But the key is that ours has to be able to integrate with this customized DNA validated registry. I mean, that is our business, and that's kind of the missing piece. So whatever we do has to be able to integrate there.
Absolutely. Okay, that is really exciting. And I have to say, this is the sort of thing that makes people like me super excited, because it's something new. And a DNA registry, oh, I love data. How can we make it look back and forth and get you all what you need? And I'll just, underline, just for Salesforce and thinking about these sorts of things, this is where, especially with organizations that have maybe light AMS needs, but really heavy, like this is the most important part of our business, and it needs to talk back and forth with our CRM/AMS. This is where I think, Salesforce really and Salesforce partners really shine because of the open API and the ability to integrate easily and creatively and to grow as your organization changes and grows. So thank you for telling me about your registry. Okay, we'll move to the next slide, please, Arj. All right, so as you are thinking about procurement, who are you going to, if you have decided on Salesforce or really any system and decide, okay, who is going to be my partner for implementation? The first thing to really understand is this, the company that you choose, the vendor you choose, and the people. You're going to be with them for a while. So you want to choose wisely and make sure that, that you're thinking through that choice, even as seriously as you think about your AMS choice. So really two ways to go. You can manage internally, right? So, and this usually works for smaller organizations that, that have probably smaller needs and have someone who can really manage the project, right? So it's not a part-time job. So really thinking like, who can for the next 3 to 6 months help us find the right vendor for our AMS, and probably that person then is going to run the project. So do you have someone who has both the time and the talent to do a really big organizational job? So some things to think about as you think about your internal teams, if you are moving forward with this option. Is this person, first of all, does this person have the time? Can they gather requirements with the rest of your team? And can they, because they have trust, right? So if you're gathering requirements, what do you want? What is the functionality? And then know that some of that's going to get cut. Do you have someone on your team who has the trust of the other teams in your organization? Are they a good writer, and can they disseminate and organize throughout the organization, because they'll be responsible for writing what we call a request for proposals. So that first, hey, everybody, we're interested in vendors who can help us do this thing. And then can they manage a timeline and lots and lots of reviews and keeping track of decisions. So if you're small, so you have few requirements and you have someone who can, or can hire someone who can really hit those 3 things, then considering internally will probably work for you, having an internal consultant to help you find your vendor. Do consider, because sometimes it does seem budgetarily cheaper, do consider that there is a really high internal resource spend. And so you really have to balance that. Is it truly cheaper given the number of hours that you will need in terms of internal resources? The other option then is to engage a selection consultant. So really great pros for these folks, because they have helped other organizations like yours, so similar associations, to find a vendor that will be a good fit. They know lots of vendors, they know what vendor strengths and weaknesses are. They are well qualified because they've gone through many implementations, and so may know things that you don't know, and have a lot more lessons learned than you might have available to you internally, because this is their full-time job. And then they don't have to invent, right? They've already created processes for gathering requirements, for producing the necessary documentation, and keeping the procurement schedule running on time. Most of these most of these engagement consultants then do offer services, and really recommended, because you've built a relationship with that person, to continue working with your organization after the selection is made. So continuing to work as either a project manager or an internal consultant throughout the implementation process. So in any case, however you choose, remember this is a years-long process. So at least 18 months for the smallest implementations, and probably longer for the largest ones. So you want to choose wisely and make sure that you have not just the right organizations, but the right people set on your team and on your vendor's team. All right, next slide, please. All right. So when you're looking for Salesforce partners, there are some tools available to you, so you don't have to look out into the internet and say, hey, whose website looks good? Your first step is actually to see which partners are vetted by Salesforce. So, and you can look, so on the top right of the screen, you can see this is how Fíonta has been vetted. We are a Salesforce.org consulting partner. So that means that we have met requirements for nonprofits. And we're also a Salesforce partner, which means we've met requirements in a more general way. So we have both in our organization. If you go to the App Exchange, so if you just search Salesforce App Exchange, you can filter, actually, if you don't mind going back, you can filter for Fíonta and you will see our customer satisfaction score. So you'll be able to see what other organizations like yours thinks about us. And you can do that for any partner that has been vetted by Salesforce. So that is a tool. You also want to look for team expertise. And again, you can go through Salesforce and see how many of, and I'll talk more about this, how many of the folks who work at the vendor you're looking at actually have expertise in Salesforce. And then in our case, and many other vendors' cases, there are additional kind of add-on expertise. So folks who are, for example, we have several accounting subject matter experts. So who are not platform specific, right? They know many platforms, but they're really good at talking to your accounting team and understanding their needs as you choose which accounting system to put on top of Salesforce, for example. And then finally, for us, this is really important, is Salesforce helps you understand the equitable and sustainable workplace parts of working with vendors. So vendors report, including us, how many, the degree to which women are part of the leadership of the company and the diversity within the company. So that's important to us to publish and talk to Salesforce about, and important to Salesforce to report back. All right, now the next slide, please, Arj. All right, so you can always start with the App Exchange. So I like to tout our rating, and everyone has one. So those 4.9 stars show that those are our combined CSAT ratings. So you'll want to look at that in Salesforce. It's not the end all be all, but it's a way to start. Do look at the online presence. So I think a website does tell you quite a lot about the values of the vendor that you're considering working with. And again, because this is going to be a long process, it's important that there's a good match in terms of values. You will want to write an RFP response, and I want to, you want to write an RFP, so a request for proposals, and then you'll want to look at the responses really closely. I want to bring this out just a little bit because I think it feels like sometimes you work so hard on your RFP and you think our clients think they have everything thought of and they send it out and they're waiting, and what they get back is a lot of questions from the vendors, and that is so important. Look at the questions that the vendor has sent back to you. It will tell you what the vendor is thinking about that maybe you don't know. Oh, thank you, Julie. So think about what, do look at Julie's comments because it's worth reading. All right, so the RFP questions, that's going to tell you, was the client, is the vendor really paying attention, and is the vendor pushing you to think further along? That's really the important thing at the RFP process, that those questions help you understand, what did we not think of when we were thinking ahead? Often we will send a response that might say something like, we think that the budget is, given the scope, maybe not aligned. That's not great news to hear, but much better to hear at the beginning than at the end. So if a vendor comes to you and talks to you about that, really in your process, that's actually a really important thing, that you're hearing from an honest vendor. And then as you move through, as you get the response, again, look again, did the vendor seem to then use your answers to complete their response? Does the response seem complete? Does the response seem like just in style, that this organization is going to be a good fit for your organization and the people in your organization? As you move to finalists, then you'll be working on demos and interviews. And again, this is really your chance to say, are these the folks or the kinds of folks that I'm going to work with for the next year and a half? Because it's going to be hard. Implementations are very, very difficult. And you want to make sure that the folks that you're talking to are folks that you can talk to in really difficult situations that include conversations about, say, money and schedule. And then finally, references. And this is really a great tool. Listen clearly to these references. I'm surprised by, sometimes this is a piece that is skipped. So you want to really dig in and understand not only how the vendor's doing, but how the organization that is giving the reference fits with your organization if they have similar problems that the vendor was able to solve. Go ahead and move on. All right, I'm going to slide through this really quick, but you want to look at core services and make sure that the core services meet your core needs. So I'll underline, so for Fíonta, one of the things that we have that many organizations don't have is in-house web and digital strategy. Other organizations have other core services. So take a look and understand, okay, does their core meet our core? Next slide, please. All right. And finally, you do want to look at certifications. So Salesforce certification, again, doesn't mean the end all be all of all things, but what it does is it says, has this vendor valued the, and does Salesforce value the skill and the understanding of the Salesforce platform with the team? So for example, we have 132 certifications at Fíonta. That tells you that and they are across the platform. So that tells you that we're really investing in our team, giving them time to study and then move on into their certifications with the very hardest test I've ever taken, which is the certified administrator, all the way to system architect. So these are not easy to get. And so the fact that the vendor gives the staff time to earn these tells you a lot. It also means that if the team has these certifications, that you can be sure that they understand the Salesforce platform. Okay, next. All right, let's talk a little bit about preparing the system and your people. And this is where we're get to number 3. So what are you worried about? What do you think would be the most challenging part of a new CRM AMS implementation for your team? Choosing the right solution, the partner, moving the data, getting team to adopt, issues with technical resources, others. Okay, adoption. Training staff, preparing SOPs, and that's going to be really huge. Choosing the right solution, adoption for sure, moving the data and adoption. This is great. The right solution, choosing the right solution. Yep. All right. Thank you all for your answers. You all are not alone. Yeah, thank you, Randy. Ditto across the board. Okay. All right, Arch, if you want to move to the next slide. Okay. So as you all are in your chat, really underlined, planning is essential for success. So if you are even thinking, hey, maybe in the next 5 years, it might be time to change AMSs, now is the time to start thinking about first your data. So the more prepared you can get, the easier time you're going to have once you get into implementation. So just take a look at your data. Is it clean? Does it have relationships? Does it have unique identifiers? The reason why are people putting really important information in notes fields? And I'm sure nobody on this call would do this, but you probably have colleagues who might do this. Or your system might be so old that you're repurposing fields, right? So you're not able to create them. The reason why I'm highlighting this is if you're not preparing for this now and thinking about, okay, do we need to pay someone internally to clean this up? Do we need to have a data plan now? It's because it's much cheaper now to take care of it than to be in the middle of your data migration and then discover that you have a lot of critical information that's in, for example, a notes field. So begin to think about what do we need to do to have really clean data that we can start doing now before it becomes either too too cumbersome for your internal team to do, or to, hire someone to train to do, or too expensive for a company like Fíonta to do. So if you're thinking now, start thinking about that clean data, managing your fields, getting people to begin to think about data governance now. Get all your data together. So I am 100% sure that at your organization, there is something that is supposed to be the source of truth. And then maybe at your organization, there are folks who, once you start to talk to them about the data that they're using, will go, well, I mean, actually what I do is I export, and then I have an Airtable where I actually do all my work, or well, I have these secret Excel spreadsheets where I keep my real information. My guess is that's happening. Any thoughts from you all? Any, yes, this might be happening at my organization. So now is the time. Yes, thank you. I love secret expo. Yes, happening right now. Right now, someone is downloading something. So now is the time to sort of remove the fear and begin to ask people, okay, really, where is your data? Yeah, not supposed to be that way. Randy, it's so weird to begin to very non-judgmentally say, hey, where's your data living now? And why are you putting it there instead of the system, so that you can begin to think about, okay, first of all, that data is, if you want everyone to use the new system, everyone's data needs to move into the new system and be easy for them to use. So the more that you can understand where the secret spreadsheets and Airtables and smart sheets and Excel files are living and what's in them, the easier it's going to be for you to plan for your data migration, and even more importantly, make sure that people adopt the new system without without moving to Airtable or an Excel sheet immediately upon moving to Salesforce. Which then brings us to the SOPs, right? So, and many of you kind of are like, oh, I think that's going to be really hard. And again, if you're thinking about it, start now, because we're going to need those SOPs. If you move to an implementation partner, that's the first thing we're going to start asking is, can we see your SOPs so that we can help you understand what is, for example, if you choose Salesforce plus Fontiva, what standard business operating procedures will work with Fontiva and what might require a customization. And we can begin to talk about, like, can we change business process? That might be cheaper. And we want to have those conversations not when everyone is real stressed out with data migration and the implementation. So if you can start now and get agreement internally, you'll have a much more smooth implementation when the time comes. And then finally, begin to get a sense. I stole this from a client, and I think that client is here. So, so apologies, and I honor you. If your system is currently more like the Weasley house than like Hogwarts, if you know what I mean, it might be that you will have to, that you will have to have a phased plan, right? So we need to move all of membership first, and then we need to think about events. If you think that's going to happen, right, that you really are going to have to pull, do things in a less risky way because of the complication of your current system, you want to start thinking now, like, what are my ideal phases, and how can we prepare for thinking about the bridges between those phases? So if we need to move just AMS, are we going to need to write to a more customized system, a customized SSO, OpenID system for temporarily as we move forward? We will help you, and any implementation partner will help you to plan that, but it's useful to understand what are the priorities if you have to move through a phased implementation. All right, next slide. All right, so your data is very important. Preparing your people is more important. So here's some advice for that. Acknowledge that there is change, and acknowledge that change is kind of hard for all of us. And you know what, the reality of just the world situation right now is we're all getting bumped by changes all the time. My kids are back on NTI today, which was totally unexpected, right? So, so we're dealing, I think, as a society with a lot of change. So we really have to be really mindful of changes at work. Begin to identify your key stakeholders and influencers. So if there is someone in your organization who is dead set against a new system, what can you, and who has a lot of influence, right? What can you do to start to sway that person now so that you don't, you don't end up with just a stuck discovery, for example, because of internal influences. So begin to really think, like, what's my plan for changing minds in terms of a new system, and how can I really highlight the pros and while acknowledging the cons. I already talked about SOPs. They're so important. I talked about them twice. Begin to identify who are your owners, like who's really excited about participating in the implementation, who can really help you, and who is really excited about the system you're choosing. So can you find your super users? Can you get, who can you get on board to help you design the implementation with your partner? And then finally, determine how you're going to handle customization requests, right? So you're going to, people are going to want more than you can afford. And that is, this, it's the same as my grocery bill, the same as my, my vacation wishes, right? Like the wants are greater than what the budget is. So how, make a plan. How are we going to discuss what the priorities are and how those fit within the budget? And then finally, I'm going to put this here, and I'm just going to say, this is so heartbreaking for me when I was working as a technical lead, when clients would decide to cut training, enablement, and change management rather than cutting functionality. And I'm just going to plant the seed right here. It's the worst idea possible, because if you think about it, if people are not trained, if they don't feel enabled, if they don't feel excited about their new system, you've just spent a lot of money for people to go back using those secret Excel sheets. So don't cut these from your budget. So as you were thinking about wants are greater than budget, you know, budget's greater than scope. The temptation is going to be like, well, training's at the end, we can probably figure it out ourselves, I'll train the folks. And that is just, in my experience, which is now long, a recipe for failed implementations. So, so make sure that you become the voice on your team for, this is the most important thing, training, enablement, and change management. If we can't support that, then we can't support the functionality. Whew, that was a lot of talking. I'm gonna, I'm so sorry. I just had a little chaos in my background. So talk about change management, man. All right. All right. So the next thing I just I apologize. The next thing, hey, it's the same for everyone. Okay.
On the last slide of the day.
Last slide, I know, right? I told everyone, but I did not tell the neighborhood children. So thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. Postal carriers here, neighborhood kids are coming in, dogs are going crazy. All right. So one of the things I just want to talk a little bit about Salesforce, just in terms of training. And if you're thinking about Salesforce, you can start thinking about it now, and Salesforce makes it easy. And I got to tell you, when I decided to change careers from straight up trying to wrestle organizations into efficiency through technology, and decided to really concentrate on a platform, the reason I chose Salesforce is because the training is free, it's easy, it's engaging. And so you can go to, if you just Google Trailhead and Salesforce, you can jump right into training. They give you badges. I don't know, it works for me. I'm a ranger and I feel super proud of it. But the other thing is, you can get your team to start looking there. They can spin up an org, they can install the MPSP, they can begin to play with things and get a sense of what the platform looks like and how it can really serve them. So if you are thinking about Salesforce, or you have super users who are thinking about it, I really encourage you to just go in there and play a little bit, and even playing with that getting those first badges is kind of fun. So if you have folks who are into it, this is a way to begin thinking and planning for Salesforce. All right, so I just talked a lot. I think we maybe have a couple minutes for questions or not, Julie. I'll follow Julie's lead on whether we have time for questions or if we can.
Yeah, you're good on time. You actually have about 13 minutes if people would like to unmute and ask some questions. We will have a final CAE CPE credit question at the end. So hang in there, people.
Thanks, Julie. So yeah, let's open this up. If you have any questions whatsoever, there's a few questions that we got in the, I guess, some private messages, which I did want to address. And I'll just go ahead and hit that right now. Some of the questions we got are just how much does all this cost? And certainly I can understand how that's so important to you. I don't like the response, it depends, but there's so much to this that one thing to understand, it's just like an AMS, sometimes it's the size of a bread box, sometimes it's the size of an office building, and it all depends on the scope of the project. The difference, the very big difference with Salesforce is that for all the nice things we said about Salesforce today, we're not a software company at Fíonta. We license absolutely nothing. We make absolutely no money off of any licensing of Salesforce software. It is done directly with Salesforce or Fíonta, or Nimble for that matter, with your rep. We are ones to come in and implement it. So if you remember when you implemented IMIS or Personify or Aptify or ACGI or any of those systems, there was always the implementation cost, and then there was the monthly software as a service. Well, Salesforce it all kind of works the same way. There's that upfront implementation that has to be done, driven by the scope of your project. And so we're looking at a lot of the same traditional things. There's going to be data conversions. There's going to be, installation, setup, configuration of the software. There will be training that needs to be done. There'll be report writing. And then you get into some of the unknowns, like, okay, well, not unknowns, but difficult things to talk about, like the integrations. Well, I just met an organization yesterday. They only had 2 integrations. That was it. But then only a day before that, I met one that needed about 15. So wildly different in cost and scope there, as well as, looking at any type of customizations that may need to be done. What I can do is offer you this. Certainly, we'd be happy to just address it with you if you want to give us a call and just give us a little bit more information. Not a long call, just maybe 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just to get a little bit of information about what you're doing. We might be able to just give you some sort of a ballpark there. But usually it's going to require us to get in and do some sort of a deeper dive into your, or if you have a requirements document, that always helps. Jennifer, did you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I can add to that as well, right? So one of the things to really consider is if you are an organization that's flexible and flexible with business processes, and you are able to say, okay, we can really flex the way that we are doing things to use out of the box solutions that's going to be cheapest, right? So if you're really willing to constrain yourselves and say, okay, even if we would really rather in the join process for X to happen to Y, X to happen before Y, but you're willing to switch that around, that can help you. The other, if you're cost sensitive, the places where the budget is largest is data migration. So again, if you were having, and I think you all heard that, right? Or you all know that because you all talked about data migration being a concern. Some things to begin to think about with your teams is how much data do we actually need to have at our fingertips, right? Do we need the last 40 years? Do we need the last 2 years? Where are we in our process? So if you can manage both the amount and the complexity of data that you have to move over, that can reduce costs. On the other hand, you may have a really complex older organization where you really need all of that, and budget isn't the most important thing, right? And what is the most important thing is that you are able to get the customizations and get your members exactly what they want and need. So it's always right. It's always a balance. So we have association stand-ups that range, am I allowed to say a range? That range from $150,000 all the way over to multi-million dollars, right? So it really depends on what you're looking at. and the choices your organization makes, right? So, and part of what your implementation partner and your RFP are doing is helping you fit functionality with budget. And, you know, even the multi-million-dollar folks don't get everything they wanted. But we, you know, it's our job to help you figure out what do you need, and then can we prioritize the wants. My dog's name is Jolene. Thank you for asking. All right, let's see. Okay, so Salesforce is all cloud-based, right? So there's no on-premise option for that, all cloud-based. And then apps like Fíonta would sit on top of that. Okay, this is a great question. Do you normally complete most of the SOPs, report, et cetera, before you go live? I would really, really, really like that to be the case. So I advise all of my clients that that should be something, if they're writing the SOPs, so assuming that they are writing the SOPs, that those are, that we do the functionality, we demo it, and then they, you know, if they're doing it, they write the SOPs and have them so that people can test them in a sandbox before they go live. That doesn't always happen, sometimes because of schedule. If we do the SOPs, right, so if we create those for your team, you know, then that's the order that we do it, and then it's ready. Sometimes when clients do them themselves, it's easy to get backlogged at that end of time. So sometimes those unfortunately happen afterwards. But if you can plan them to happen before live, it's real good. Let's see. What Salesforce specific roles do your customers typically adopt via an implementation? Okay, it depends. Yes, of course it depends. So this is my soapbox. Someone has to own your systems. And if that is Salesforce, you do need a Salesforce administrator. If you're a small organization, does that person need to be full-time? No, but that person needs to have enough time to efficiently take care of your system. You've just invested a lot of money on it, and you need someone to really take care of it. So an admin is important. If you are going to be making lots and lots of changes, right? So if you change your membership a lot or expect to, so right when COVID happened, suddenly membership offerings and what folks were doing, we had to be fast, right? We had to be on the ground moving things quickly. It is easy to make the mistake of just letting anyone in the system and just make changes kind of willy-nilly. So if you're making those sorts of changes, you need someone on the back end who really understands the whole system and can help your folks test and think through in terms of a systems governance plan. So someone who is really in charge and makes, you know, yes or no answers, even if other people are making changes. In terms of analytics or reports, the idea with Salesforce is anyone can pull their own reports, which is an awesome idea. You really do need, it's not, once you do it, to me, it's intuitive because I've been doing it all the time, but you really need the training. So if folks are, if you were pulling a lot of reports and really depending on those reports to make decisions for your business daily, having someone, you know, to take care of that for your team can be really helpful. If it's a little less of a lift, you know, making sure that someone in each part of your organization understands reports and can help the team and be a super report user, that's something that that I would recommend. If you do a lot of custom development, so if you decide we want to go completely custom because we want exactly what we want, then you do really have to have a vendor in terms of a managed services contract, or you need to have a developer on staff. So because it's really easy to say, oh, instead of this checkbox, I want a multi-select pick list, do that on the front end, and then it breaks everything in the back end. So, you know, a thing to think about as you're thinking about out of the box or customization is who is going to take care of the customizations. If you are heavy on customization, that means that every time you upgrade, it's going to be a heavier lift. Mark, did I answer your question? I just talked a lot about, I want to make sure I got what you needed. Perfect, thank you. Okay, for native Salesforce platform, what meetings platforms would you recommend to integrate? And let me ask, Francis, are you talking about live meetings, web meetings, events? Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, more live meetings, just taking registrations over, processing payments, selecting upgrades.
Yep.
The whole kind of kit and caboodle.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, so that is one of the areas that I think Fíonta excels. Their events platform is really flexible. So that's one area, like if you are thinking about membership with Fíonta, their events platform really hits all but the most large, 100,000 person meetings. I also really like Cvent, so native platform or native integration. Cvent is something that I recommend for my clients, and it seems to, even with the largest meetings, meet their needs. It is not a light lift, right? So it's not plug it and forget it. And there's quite a lot of configuration. So one of the things to balance is, do we have someone on staff who can really manage this moving forward? Does that answer your question, Francis?
I think so. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
I was just going to add on to that, the last question, and in the, we actually get a lot of requests just like that. Which is the best meeting system? What's a good LMS? And so Fíonta does a really great job at actually documenting and managing this from consultants and analysts who are out in the field. And it is really nice to see it that we have it all available to us on a wiki space that we maintain, and very well documented, actual feedback that is much detailed that you could ever really want to get a really good start on trying to evaluate some systems. So we're always happy to help clients like that.
And I'll plug just a little bit of just implementation partners in general. And it's why I work for a consulting firm, is because our colleagues are always finding something new, trying something new, and then reporting back. So we have, if I don't know the answer, we have a group of people who have contributed to an answer to help you, look through pros and cons and okay, which one is going to meet our needs, and create a matrix for requirements plus third-party apps.
Are there any other questions? Is everyone tired? Julie, I'll turn it back to you then, I guess.
Awesome, thank you. So hang in there for one more second. I am going to share my screen again. You do have one final question for your CAE CPE credit, and that is, please do let us know what is your most important takeaway from today's webinar. It's going to give you something to take back to your organization, something where you've synthesized the information and now you've got, whether it be an action step for conversation or whether it be something that you want to take further. Go ahead and let us know that in the chat. And while you're doing that, I do want to mention to everyone here that our platform for sending you emails about our events has changed. So if you're not seeing those, it's because we have less of them. We're trying not to inundate your email. So you're getting bulletins less frequently. So at any point that you're not seeing that and you're like, wait, I need to go to a webinar, you can find those at ustranscorp.com/education. And everything we have is listed there. And finally, we want to encourage you to be a thought leader for your peers. So let us know something that you learned today. You can share it with your peers. We'll put it on our microsite, and you can share that with everybody in your space. So I am going to include this link in the follow-up that I will send you along with the recording. You will receive the slide deck from Fíonta directly. So be looking for that slide deck from them, and I will send you out later today the recording from this webinar. So if you want to share that with anybody within your organization, feel free. And do take a moment, 30 seconds, using the Gather Voices platform to leave us a video. We would love to see that from you. All right, so outside of that, I have nothing more for you this afternoon. I do want to thank Jennifer and Arj both for being here, for sharing their knowledge with us. Any final words?
No, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much. We really appreciate just the generosity of your time this afternoon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And if you want that chat, you can save it. Go to the ellipsis. I know most of you are heading out, but it was a great chat, so you can save it. And have a great rest of your day.